Welcome to the FiPL Farm Diaries, brought to you by the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority. FiPL stands for Farming in Protected Landscapes, a programme funded by Defra that helps farmers and land managers in England's national parks and national landscapes access funding for projects supporting climate, nature, people and place. In each episode, we'll dig into a particular part of a project that's received FiPL funding. And while we focus on one theme at a time, every story is part of a much bigger picture, showing how these projects and people are working together to shape the future of farming in the Yorkshire Dales landscape. Join us as we meet the people making a difference and discover how farming in protected landscapes is delivering for the Dales, one story at a time. Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of the FiPL Farm Diaries. This episode is all about using FiPL grants to diversify businesses in the Yorkshire Dales. So the first couple that we're going to speak to on this episode are Paul and Andrea Dixon. Paul and Andrea received some FiPL funding to convert a barn into accessible accommodation up near Nateby. So we're going to start off by speaking to Paul and get a general overview of what's gone on. And then we roped Andrea into this podcast because she was very much the brains behind the design. She put an awful lot of time into researching and figuring out how to make this building as accessible as possible for as many different types of people as possible. And what they've done is absolutely amazing. So let's hear what they've got to say.
My name is Paul Dixon, and I live in Nateby, which is part of the extended Yorkshire Dales National Park, although we are in Cumbria, ironically. I'm only a stone's throw away from Swaledale, and outside my farm gate is the fell. It's a family farm. We've been here for generations. I have the boss, which is Andrea. You know, she's a valued asset to the farm, and I have two boys, Matthew and Oliver, and I've been farming here for 40 years.
Morning, Paul. Thank you very much for joining me and giving me your time. Appreciate that. So we're here just outside Nateby and to talk about the project that you did restoring an old barn. Do you just want to talk us through what it was that you applied for with the FiPL funding?
Well, we had ambitions with the barn to make it a holiday let, and but we were struggling for reassurance because we were just going to be one of many barns, and we thought, well, we need to try and make it different. So we thought, right, okay, let's try and make it accessible. And then we looked at the costs of doing that, and it was quite prohibitive. And so we approached FiPL, and they were very understanding. Realised there was very limited accessible accommodation in the national park, and were willing to support us in it.
Brilliant. So this was done you said about 5 years ago, didn't you? 2020?
Yeah. 2021, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that,
yeah. So how the barn was totally derelict, not
just... it was just an old barn that had been for the cows, and the hay had been upstairs, a typical kind of barn, and we'd had back in the early 70s, we'd put a block extension onto it for the cattle, and of course it's all derelict now. We haven't had cattle since about 1980, so it's just been an equipment store, really.
Yeah.
And it was starting to get tired, and we need to do something with it.
Yeah. And that's just a brilliant idea, because as you quite rightly say, there'll be a lot of sort of little cottages and all that types of buildings that are now holiday lets, and I imagine with something that you're not starting from scratch from, it's quite hard to make it accessible, whereas you were almost with a blank canvas, weren't you? With that, you could sort of do what you wanted, well, within reason.
Yes,
do what you wanted.
No, we had the restrictions of the barn footprint, but other than that, we could do what we wanted to do with it, and have it all on one level, which was the important piece of work to be done. It was Andrea takes a great deal of credit for it. She helped design the place. And she, made the accommodation really accessible. It's sort of you've got wide doors. People get in and don't whack their hands with the wheelchairs. There's pocket doors for them, easy to get in and out. The bathroom is a sort of walk-in shower, and we have grab rails in every convenient place. Sinks at different heights, contrast so people can see for eyes, and plenty of good lighting, sort of thing. I mean, in the kitchen, the appliances were all made so you could move some of the units because they're on wheels. You could pull them out and use your wheelchair in there and get anywhere near the oven and the sink and anything else you like on the hobs. It's great.
Brilliant. And Andrea did a lot of that design herself.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. Yes.
So where did she get her information from, or is that her background? Or
no, well, the inspiration comes from I have one of my best friends is in a wheelchair, and I see the difficulties that he has and the restrictions it makes on his life, not just at home but everywhere he wants to go, sort of thing. So, but it was quite difficult because people weren't really giving us a definitive answer of what we needed. So we had to really work it out for ourselves. I mean, the sinks ended up being at two heights because one is for a wheelchair and one is for a motorized wheelchair. And obviously they're different heights. But it also works as an adult and a kid's sink. So it's universal living.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. So I suppose for any other farmers that are maybe thinking of doing something similar, there's an awful lot of research needs to go into it before you start your design.
Yes, it is. Yes, and resourcing the equipment you need rather than just going to the first person you see, because it can be very, very expensive. So you just got to resource. Well, that's appropriate. We could do that. And we don't need to buy the whole singing or dancing. It's just about trying to get value for money.
Yeah, absolutely. So, aside from the differences in this conversion with it being accessible, how was the process of converting a barn in terms of planning and surveys and all that kind of thing? How did you get on with that?
Well, that was quite fortunate because, as I said, we're in Cumbria, we're part of the Extended National Park. Where we sit is about 10 yards outside the national park.
Yeah.
When you drove off the road, you were in the national park. So we didn't have the restrictions of the national park, which helped greatly. I think we were a little fortunate because it was COVID when we applied for planning, and they gave the permission kindly with the openings that we wanted. So we've been very fortunate, really.
Brilliant. And in terms of like nature, bat surveys and that, did you have to do all that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, that was all done. Bat surveys. It's in the curtilage of a listed building, because where we're sitting now is a listed building, so there was that to deal with as well. And everybody was satisfied, and the appearance of what it was going to look like when it was finished, and off we started.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you could do it, if you had your time again, would you do anything different? What have your learnings been, I suppose, from doing it?
I think if we did it, if we wanted to do it again, I think there's the build was complicated because we wanted different sizes, like for doors and things like that. Although they're not very expensive, they could take 3 months to order, which would delay your build, sort of thing. And so I think what we would do, we would order a lot of our doors and equipment that we needed well in advance.
Yeah.
And so we could get what we wanted. And
yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of thought with it, both myself and Andrea, and so it was fairly well planned.
Yeah. It's those little things, isn't it? I think with any build that you think they're going to be the simple bits, and they end up taking a bit longer.
Well, that's it. It's just simple things like pocket doors. Yes, they have a handle on, but you can't have the handle going right back to the door frame, because they could trap a hand behind it, and of course that narrows the gap for the wheelchair to go in. And these things you don't really anticipate till you get nearer the job in hand. Really.
Yeah. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So how are you getting on with it now? It's finished. Are you getting plenty of bookings? Has it been successful?
Well, yeah, it has. I mean, we're advertised through Yorkshire Hideaways, and we are the first accessible holiday let.
Brilliant.
And it's been fantastic. It's been very rewarding, actually. With a lot of people in wheelchairs, probably 50-50. And the other 50% are people with like 3 generations, granny, and because they can sleep downstairs in the downstairs bedroom with the electric bed, and and everything else. And then there's plenty of there's a games room for the kids. and we have super fast. Luckily, we have super fast broadband for them as
Oh, well done.
Yeah. No, it's cool, and mum and dad have a relaxing state, and there's it's like in the Yorkshire Dales, there's fantastic places to walk with your dog.
Yeah.
We've been virtually full every week since May, and we only started last August, and we were pretty full then, and it's doing far better than we ever anticipated. It's great.
Fantastic. It sounds like such a lot of thought's gone into it. Even I know as a parent myself, if you can get somewhere that's got a games, like those places are just golden, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we'll have a read of the guest book before, but it's very evident in what the guest book and what they're saying. The thought and how much they really appreciate being here. People have come here with that have had unfortunate news from one way or other and can't do what they used to do. And we're also part of Access the Dales. We have a terrain hopper, which is an accessible four-wheel drive vehicle, and you can go anywhere on the fells with it.
Brilliant.
For the people who use here, or just book it online, and it's been fantastic. People have been able to walk the fell where they never thought they would be able to ever do that again.
That's fantastic, isn't it? How did you get involved with that then? Did you approach them?
Well, that was fate, really. I was on the fell one day with my bike and my dog, and I came across a lovely lady called Debbie North. And she was in one of these accessible vehicles. And I said, wow, what a fantastic thing that is, and we started talking and said, well, I'm thinking of doing a barn. And they said, well, and I'm thinking of trying to make things more, have accessible vehicles for people to venture through the countryside sort of thing. And we sort of, well, we can make you a hub. And it just went from there. It was a chance meeting on the fell. It was just one of those things.
Yeah.
It was fate, really.
Yeah. That is fantastic. That's giving these people the full opportunity, isn't it, to explore the Dales and everything. Let's talk about the actual process of applying for the FiPL funding then. How did you find that and the support of the National Parks staff?
Well, the application wasn't extensive. I got a little bit of help because I'm part of the Farmer Network, and they helped me with that, which is fantastic. They're a great organisation. But FiPL and all the my colleagues, all the colleagues in FiPL were fantastic, really. And when funding changed, they were able to adapt my funding so I could claim more money. They've been tremendous, and every time I put an application for some of the money, because I was given a pot and I sort of took it in quarters, it was easy. It just came. There wasn't a lot of red tape. It was stress free is the right word, I think. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's been really apparent through speaking to all the different farmers that have done these projects, the breadth of projects that have been done, and every single person have said that it's not as arduous as you think a grant fund might be, and that the staff at the national parks are just fantastic with it. So right, Andrew, we've roped you into this now. I'm sorry to tell you. Just to talk a little bit more about the design, and if for other people that are thinking about making accessible accommodation, where did you start with figuring out like how to design it, how to do it?
It was quite a tricky task. I suppose I started off with building regulations, and I looked at the approved document M, which gives you kind of what the government states has to be the sort of minimum requirements. I then found Visit England had quite a lot of good guidance on their website, and they gave me, I spoke to some people there who sort of pointed me in the right direction. But it was quite difficult because mostly the guidance is for specific disabilities.
Right.
So, for example, the guidance would be if you were in a wheelchair, or if you had these mobility issues, or if it was a sight issue, or if it was a hearing issue. And because we wanted to make our property appropriate to as many different people as we could, quite often what was good for sight wasn't good for hearing. And what suited, because there's so many different people with mobility issues, people in an electric wheelchair require different heights in terms of accessible basins to somebody in a manual wheelchair. So it was just like, it was a real head scratcher. It really was. And I suppose by the time we'd finished, I worried that we had tried to accommodate for a lot of people, but maybe not specifically accommodated for the few, if that makes sense. But I mean, we've had lots of really positive feedback. I mean, the fact that we've got, for example, we could have gone for a very expensive like basin in the wet room that you could move up and down, but I was very wary of things that I felt might go wrong, because in Cumbria there are very few suppliers of disabled equipment. So to then schedule somebody to come from Manchester or something to come and fix things, I wanted things to be more, I suppose, fixed and fewer things that could go wrong. So instead of going for a basin that moved, we went for 2 basins, one at an appropriate height for people in an electric wheelchair, and one for an appropriate height for people in a manual wheelchair. Equally, they'll not be ideal for everybody, because everybody's needs are different. And that is one of the biggest things that I found, that with all my research, there was no real one size fits all. And that was what made it really difficult, because I was thinking, well, if I do that, maybe I'm excluding that group. If I do that, I'm excluding that group. So it was kind of, I spent a lot of time reading through documents, looking what was out there, and trying to find a best fit that fit the majority of people. In the hope that, the majority of people would be, find it appropriate and then want to come.
And Paul was talking about things like turning circles in the bathroom for wheelchairs and stuff like that. Was that something that you realised on your own, or did that come from the guidance like that?
No, that came from the guidance.
Brilliant. Okay.
So Doc M, the approved document from building regulations, has quite a lot of that information in.
Brilliant.
And also at the time there was Visit England did a national accessible scheme, which I think, I'm not sure if that is current, but at the time it gave guidelines of kind of best practice. And so I used both of those documents to determine that, we made sure that we had like a 1500 centimetre turning circle. So we increased the size. So the plans, when we did the plans drawn, the downstairs bedroom looked quite a decent size, but we actually reduced the size of the lounge to make sure that we had good sized turning circles at either side of the bed and at the bottom of the bed. So really there's loads of space around the bed, so that if wheelchair users need to turn around, then they have no problem. And equally in the bathroom, we had to be quite canny with the design there to ensure that, so for example, we put in pocket doors rather than a door that opened in or opened out, because it meant that there was no restriction on the space approaching the wet room, and there was no restriction of the space in the wet room by the movement of the door. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I suppose the other side of all this is obviously the design has got to be spot on to make it accessible for all the people that want to use it, but in terms of aesthetics as well, you want it to look nice, don't you, for a holiday cottage?
I'd spoken to, I suppose we wanted to make the cottage suitable to able-bodied people, people with maybe sight issues or things like that. Like my mum isn't great with her sight, and I wanted it to be appropriate for her. So we had to look at colour contrasts of like walls compared to fittings, where we've got steps going upstairs. So like my mum's quite capable of going up a set of stairs, but being able to identify where the stairs started. So we had to put marker strips across so that you could see where they started. So it was a case of trying to make it appropriate to lots of different people, and it be somewhere that anybody wanted to stay. I think quite a number of people who've spent a lot of time in hospital don't want that hospitalised kind of environment. They want somewhere that feels a little bit more luxurious, but they still need those aids to help them to shower or to get off the toilet, or be able to see where the light switches are or where the stairs start, or things like that.
Yeah.
Or even just being able to access the property. The fight that we had to be able to find big doors to be able to actually create in the entranceway. I mean, we have a bifold door that takes us out, people out into a little courtyard, and we've got no threshold there, so it was sunk down into the ground. And all these little things were you know, the builders were like, "Oh, well, we don't normally do this." I'm like, "No, I know you don't normally do it, but there needs to be no ledge."
Yeah.
But then when I was doing it, the planning, I kind of thought, well, actually, this works really well for a mum with a pram.
Yes.
It isn't just for people in wheelchairs. It works well for somebody walking in with 2 bags full of shopping.
Yeah.
Because you're not clattering the shopping on either side of the door as you walk in. So they're really simple changes that just makes life easier for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I said it to Paul and I'll say it to you. It sounds like, you know, such an enormous amount of thought's gone into it. So yeah, credit to you both. It's a really brilliant asset to the national parks. So the next couple that we're going to speak to are Ben and Samantha Spence. Ben and Samantha have got Curlew Dairy, and they received some FiPL funding to do some barns ups, which enabled them to move that business from their double garage at their home in Wensley to where they are now. So let's hear what they've got to say. Morning, Ben. Thank you very much for giving me time. We're here at Curlew Dairy in Carperby. And we're here to talk about what you're doing and how FiPL funding has helped you do that. So do you just want to give us an overview to yourself and your business and who you're working with, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so my name's Ben Spence, myself and my wife, Samantha. It'll be nearly 10 years ago now, we were in finance, town centre of Manchester. Thought, actually, well, perhaps this life isn't for us. I always grew up in the Dales, so being in the middle of a city was always difficult. So we decided that we'd head back to the Dales with a view to running our own business here, starting a family. So about 5 years ago, we started our cheese business in a converted double garage in our house in Wensley. And it grew from strength to strength. We knew very shortly that we would have to find somewhere bigger. We rented from the Bolton Estate. They've been very supportive of us and our business. So the house that we're at in Wensley was a rental from them. And they said, actually, well, there's a site in Carperby that we haven't done anything with for a good few years. Perhaps we could look to do that there. So we then looked to FiPL to help us fund. So there's a range of stone buildings that were in a bad state of disrepair, that were falling down. That I said, well, actually, let's restore those and turn those into our cheese dairy. So FiPL helped fund that and was instrumental in getting us out of our double garage into a relatively decent place to make Wensleydale cheese.
Yeah.
So the business makes Yoredale, so it's a traditional cloth-bound Wensleydale cheese. So it's more akin to the Wensleydale cheese that was made in Wensleydale 100 years ago, pre-war. So the cheese was often described as soft and would often blue after 6 months, which is a far cry away from perhaps the Wensleydale that most people are used to. So yeah, hopefully we try and take it back to how Wensleydale used to be made.
Brilliant. Amazing. And this, I mean, it's a big old site. And as you say, there's a lot of buildings here, isn't there? So fantastic that you managed to get some FiPL funding. And when did you start the conversion here?
So little less than a year ago, we started here. So,
you've cracked on, haven't you?
Yeah, last year was a long year. So was ready for Christmas.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to ask you, why cheese? Where did that come from? Where did the name for the dairy come from? Because I love that as well. Like obviously you wanted to move back here, but how did you get from finance to cheese?
So I grew up on a dairy farm, so we had a family dairy farm. And at the time, that dairy farm was selling milk to Wensleydale Creamery.
Yes.
So we thought, well, we'll just move back. We'll kind of do that for a little while and see what we come up with. I always knew milk as a commodity was significantly undervalued. At the time, when we decided to start the venture on the farm, milk was about 18 pence a litre. So I, at the time, rung the MD of Wensleydale Creamery up and said, we're thinking of doing milk vending, just as an initial stepping stone into on-farm processing. And he said, actually, well, while you're on putting all of this in, have you thought about doing an unpasteurised cheese?
Yep.
And I said, well, no, David, I didn't really think of doing cheese because I don't think you'd be too happy with us doing cheese.
Didn't think that'd go down well.
No. But he was like, no, we can't really do an unpasteurised cheese at the Wensdale Creamery. It's too specialist and too niche. But if you want to do it, me and Richard Clark will give you a hand, get the first few batches out, and we'll give you an initial route to market to kind of start that out. So that's what we did. Sadly, David passed away during COVID. But since then, people like Andy Swinscoe at Courtyard Dairy, David Lockwood at Neil's Yard Dairy have really got behind us and taken the cheese now all over the world. So
brilliant. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so that makes more sense then. So you're a dairy farmer's son. That makes more sense now. So this must, I mean, it's a big undertaking, isn't it? When you set out to do a business like this, it's not just about the doing side of it. There's the whole marketing, social media, branding, all that kind of thing. Any tips for people thinking of setting up a business?
Yeah,
like,
speak to my wife.
Use the brains behind that side of things.
My wife, she runs. I make the cheese and she sells it. Basically, that's the way our kind of roles work. But no, our first biggest wholesale customers all came through social media. Instagram was a very different beast when we first started. It was more photos than videos.
Yes.
And it was a great medium for us to be able to get customers, and still is, to be fair, but I guess less so. Now that we've come a little further, it's more word of mouth that gets us new wholesale customers rather than social media. But that was a big part of what got us out the starting blocks. Fine Cheese Company in Bath were one of our first bigger customers, and they found us on social media. Samantha will post something most days on there just to increase our brand awareness.
Yeah.
And other than that, we rely on word of mouth locally to sell products.
Brilliant. So you say globally, what's the furthest away place that you go?
Our cheese is definitely better travelled than Ireland, that's for sure. So this year we're going over to the States to have a look at the wholesale customers that we've got over there. So we've got people in Boston, people in New York that's selling our cheese. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, it gets well travelled.
So in terms of supporting other local businesses, then you've obviously got to get your milk from somewhere. Talk us through that. How many sort of local? Are you taking it from local farms, or are you taking that from a supplier? How does that work?
So the Wensdale Creamery have actually been very supportive of us. They allowed us to take milk from a farm locally at Bolton Hall. So that's been really good for having that terroir of our cheese within the Wensdale Valley. So that's really good. So yeah, all our milk comes from just 10 minutes down the road.
Ah, amazing. So it's really sustainable then. That's brilliant. So tell us exactly then, you've had the FiPL grant to convert some of these barns. What have you actually had to, what do you need for a cheese business? What have you had to convert them into?
So the making them watertight was kind of the estate said that they would do the structure and we did everything on the internal. So flooring, drainage. There's insulated panels and food grade panels that go inside them. We upgraded our cheese vat because obviously we were in a double garage before, so we're now able to put a bigger cheese vat that I designed bespoke. Basically spending just 3 years leaning over a very deep vat ruined my back, so at least I made a cheese vat that I could reach without killing myself for the next 20 years. So yeah, we've got a new cheese vat, some cheese presses that, because ours is a Wensdale style cheese, so they were in the style of the old cast iron presses that you can't have in dairies anymore, so we made a stainless steel version of those to again try to kind of replicate how cheese would have been pressed all those years ago, albeit not with the cast iron. So yeah, those kind of things were things that FiPL funded for us.
No, but that's brilliant, isn't it? Because you're really sort of preserving the heritage, I suppose, of the Dales and the, as you say, how it used to be made, which is really important. And obviously it sounds as if there's a really big demand for it, so that's a good thing. In terms of employees and the local community, are you employing staff? You can't just be you and Samantha?
Yeah, so we've got at the moment we've got 4 members of staff that work various part-time hours through the week. So it's good, and that'll probably increase obviously as we go. yeah, no, there's 2 members of staff that have been with us from the start, and then yeah, last year we took on another 1 member, and this year we've taken on another member. So,
Yeah.
so it's good.
Brilliant. So the localness is obviously a big part of the story, and like the marketing and all the rest of it. And do you find that do your customers ask about, I suppose, the area and where it's come from? Is provenance a big part of it? I bet it is.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's and Wensleydale Creamery has certainly done a very good job of putting Wensleydale on the map.
Yeah.
You know, it's what has allowed us to step into places like America, because they've already been there, so people understand and know what Wensleydale cheese is and kind of roughly what part of the world that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, provenance and making cheese in this dale has you know, been synonymous for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So being able to continue that tradition is amazing. So yeah, it's really important, and it's probably the biggest thing that does sell our cheese.
Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah, I guess it's like, you know, cheddar or Stilton.
Mm-hmm.
It's and Cheshire. You know, it's kind of those kind of places, that names that sell the cheese.
Yeah. It hasn't got a protected geographical thingy, what they're called?
No, PDO.
That's it.
No, I was doesn't. And indeed, Wensleydale can be made anywhere in the country.
You can tell though.
No, but it's why we pride ourselves. So, you know, the name Yordale is obviously the historical name for Wensleydale, because obviously all the other dales in Wensleydale, the Swale runs down the Swale, Bishop down the Bishop, but Wensleydale has the River Yore that runs down it. So historically, that was named after the market town Wensley, where we started making cheese. So that's why we thought of Yordale, because it's the historic name for Wensleydale.
So, brilliant. I didn't know that, you know. I did not know that, so that's it. I've learned something. Okay, Ben, so talk us through a little bit about the actual cheese making process.
Yeah, so we get the milk from a local dairy. It will arrive in the dairy at about 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll then add something called starter, which is like a yogurt. And the particular starter that we use, again, it's why our cheese is different, or certainly to the Wensleydale Creamery. It's called a bulk starter, and this starter that we use is from a company called Barber's, and they are one of these crazy companies that you just don't understand quite how exists. They almost foresaw the end of farmhouse cheesemaking, and nearly 100 years ago whipped around and found some of the best starters that were growing on farm pre-war, and have uncultured them ever since. So the starter cultures that we use are a Wensleydale type starter that were found on the farm pre-war. So again, it helps us try to emulate the type of cheese that was made all the way back then. So that is added to the milk at about 7 o'clock when the milk is warm enough. So we'll heat the milk up to about 26 degrees. Add the rennet, and that sets it to like a milk jelly. We'll cut it, put it in the press, and it's then traditionally aged in cloth on wooden boards for about 6 to 8 weeks.
Brilliant. What's next then for Curlew Dairies?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think this year is just consolidate what we are doing. Last year, in addition to moving, we one of our friends stopped making cheese, so we took on her halloumi business. So it'll be to look to kind of consolidate that, and there's a little farm shop that we're hoping to open as well. So open that up and generally prettify the site. I think we've kind of got most of the inside done and got the functional stuff done. So it'd be nice to make it a bit of an attraction. We're looking to we've got a barn, a double story barn in the yard. So it may be that again we apply for additional FiPL funding for that. I've had an initial conversation, but we're hoping to convert that into kind of an educational space.
Oh, brilliant.
And you know, vault the barn right up and bring people in and educate them about Wensleydale cheese and its heritage and things. So that'd be something that we'd really like to do as well.